This is Podcasting Seeds, a podcasting guide for faith leaders and churches. You're listening to the narrated articles from my email newsletter of the same name. Today is June 4th, 2023. Podcast Breakdown, Green Room's Stephanie Gretzinger interview. Now, I'm one of the sound engineers for my church's worship team. One of the worship pastors shared this snippet from this podcast to the team with Stephanie Gretzinger of Bethel talks about the authenticity of worship writers today. It makes her sad because many are writing songs about what we get out of it and not about God. The video captured an authentic moment, so I took a listen to the rest of the episode. I thought this would be a perfect episode to do my very first case study on. The whole conversation is worth listening to, but I won't be summarizing the content. Rather, I'll be looking at the episode with the producer's perspective. Let's dive in. First, the positives. Positive number 1, well-organized show notes. They start with a description of the episode. This is what people will see without clicking see more, so this is your second chance to hook them. They kind of just rehash the title with more words, but I could use a few more synonyms or maybe expand upon the title a little bit more. Next is links for the guest. It's always best to make your guest a priority, and this reflects that. Then they link to the audio-only version for the diehard fans. They don't, however, link back to the video version in the audio notes, which I think would be smart. Just in case, a listener wants to see a specific moment, perhaps. Next, they've got their organization's links for the really curious folks, and on YouTube, they wrap up with hashtags. Hashtags aren't necessarily useful on audio platforms, though, so that's why it's important to get those keywords and synonyms into your initial episode description. Positive number 2, a sharp hook. The audio starts off with a juicy line spoken by Stephanie. This is great for a few reasons. It captures the listener's attention right off the bat with an intriguing comment that pulls us in to listen for more context. Thanks to TikTok and the such, you've got 3 to 7 seconds to do that. Best of luck to you. They also used a soundbite from the guest, even though the host said some great stuff too, but the host will be back next week, so focus on your guest. Positive number 3, authentic conversation. I gave you a snippet already, but these are conversations worship pastors are probably dying to hear. And it feels like you just walked into the kitchen to grab a snack, and these two are sitting at the counter deep in conversation, and you just decided to stick around. This is what podcasts were built on, and I kind of love it. Needs improvement. Needs improvement number 1, unknown host. Throughout the entire episode conversation, or even in the show notes for the episode, the male host doesn't introduce himself at all. I think this is because Stephanie and him have a really long history together as worship leaders. But this caters well, this not introducing himself to longtime fans who have watched the show from the start, but those fans that don't even think about it. But for me, a new listener on the second season of the show, I had to bounce around to find the guy's name. It's Will Hart, by the way. Needs improvement number 2, unbalanced voices. Throughout the episode, I was constantly cranking up the volume to hear Stephanie and turning it right back down for Will. I didn't miss any content, but it was a bit annoying. The technical term for this is a wide dynamic range, or the difference between the loudest point and the quietest point. Always make sure to check your levels at the start of your recording, have great mic technique, and know enough to educate your guests as well. Needs improvement number 3, plosive problems. Your voice should not activate the subwoofers of my car when you say a P word. This is just standard stuff, and I'm honestly surprised that 2 worship artists of their caliber don't know how to avoid these, or they weren't reduced in post-production. Anyways, I had a couple other positive takeaways that I had from listening, but I wanted to keep it short. If you do listen to the interview, what'd you love about the episode? Was I spot on or a little too harsh for them? Message me on Twitter, Discord, or good old-fashioned email to let me know. And if you'd like more coaching like this, plus episode ideas, Jesus-centered podcast recs, and industry news actually relevant to you, then sign up for my email newsletter, Podcasting Seeds. Get all that a week ahead of time, including a private podcast feed for narrations like this. My goal is to help you make Christ known and cultivate the spiritual development of your community with podcasts. Sign up today and get my free guide to being a great podcast guest along with some other goodies. Link in the show notes. Thanks for listening.